We're very pleased to have today on LiveFest Angad Maulankar. I'll quickly introduce him. Many of you may have already seen some of his work on social media. He's an aerospace engineer. He's a pilot in training. He's got very illustrious lineage. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. But he's most known right now for some absolutely fabulous aviation art and artwork that he's been putting out. He also makes these available for those who are interested in purchasing them. On his website. All of those details will be in the description below this video. So if you want to, after this video, you can reach out to him. You can order pieces, and I can tell you they're absolutely fabulous. Through this video, I'm going to show you some of the things that Angad's been doing as well. Angad, welcome. Great to see you.
Hi, Shiv. Nice to be here.
Finally, speak to you face to face, because so far we've been interacting on Twitter. I've seen a lot of your work. So my first question to you is going to be, obviously on the lovely pieces of art that you've put out. I certainly haven't seen anything of that kind, being done on a regular, organized sort of basis here in India. Tell us how you began and why you began doing this kind of thing.
So the story is actually linked to the quarantine and the virus, because my original plan for this year was supposed to be to pursue commercial aviation and to actually start with that entire process. And I'd started that process and I was supposed to write those exams. But that's just about when the virus started to make itself known. And that kind of meant you just pretty much stuck at home. There's nothing else to really do. And I personally have been drawing aeroplanes since I could walk and talk. So it just seemed like a natural progression for me to continue to draw airplanes. But I think what really sparked this entire project was I believe I made a depiction of a MiG-29 UPG flying in Ladakh. And I posted that on Twitter, I think a week or 2 weeks after the Galwan incident had happened. The first Galwan incident happened. And people on Twitter really seemed to take to it. And I mean, there were a lot of opinions, but people really seemed to like it. And I mean, I had quite a few people share it, like WhatsApp it back to me and say, hey, have you seen this awesome art? Why don't you make something like this? Which was extremely amusing. But yeah, that pretty much showed me that there definitely is a market for this, and people definitely want to they want stuff like this. I mean, there definitely is a need for it, which is why I figured, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, there should be something like this. Why hasn't anyone done it? I mean, why not do it yourself? You have
no, absolutely, because I've been reporting defense for a very long time. I'm an aircraft freak as well. And I can tell you that I haven't seen stuff like this, like I said, on an organized sort of basis in a long time. From time to time there are pieces of art that come out, by those who do them. But this kind of thing where you're doing it on a regular basis. Tell us about your process a little bit, Angad. How do you choose? Because your compositions are quite specific. It's not just the platform; it's also the setting. Like you said, the MiG-29 piece was just after Galwan. Tell us about how you bring all of the elements together.
So, I mean, this is going to sound like a little bit of self-promotion here, but basically, I think that's the difference between having an aerospace engineer and someone who, I mean, I don't want to use the word lived aviation. Like, I don't use that term lightly, but yeah, I mean, I've always grown up around airports. There's always been aviation. There's always been aeroplanes in my life. And I think that's the difference, is because then you aren't just drawing. It isn't just a drawing. You're trying to showcase various capabilities and various, things are the words are escaping me, but basically capabilities that are inbuilt into that platform that wouldn't otherwise be immediately noticeable. So for example, in a piece that I'd made about the Beriev A50, which is the Indian Air Force AWACS, at least the only one for now, as far as I know. I don't know. They have some plans for some things in the future. But I mean, the thing was, how do you depict that? Because it should be more than just drawing an airplane, right? I mean, anyone can just draw an airplane, but it's a thing of how to bring out that concept of what is an AVAX used for, what is it, and to depict things that happen over hundreds and hundreds of kilometers is something that it was a real learning curve for me, because you had to genuinely sit and study and try and figure out how graphic designers in the past have depicted great distances, and how do you do all of that and still make it work as a whole. That was part of it, and then definitely another part of it is that I feel like pictures shouldn't just be, they should have a idea behind them.
Hmm.
And if it should have like everything should have a slightly aggressive kind of, I mean, you want to prove that this is a weapon. It's not just something to hang on your wall. It's a depiction of a weapon.
Yeah.
So that was also something that was interesting to try and get into. And I mean, it's fun to find different ways to have subtle depictions of aggressiveness, and yeah.
How much of an
I'm not
influence
sure if
has
that was the
your
answer you're
how
looking
much
for,
of an
but
influence has your dad been? You know, we all know your dad. We've written about him. Great guy. How much of an influence has that been? Because you've grown up around the military as well. So you know, what kind of influence has that been like in some of the things you do?
on a very direct level, it's a lot of fact checking, because you can't just draw something, you can't just draw any weapon on any station and say, yeah, no, this seems about right, because someone will fact check you and someone will tell you that that's not how it works. But it extends to even smaller things like what what position is what shock cone, and why is you can't I think I made a few things for an LCA Navy, so that would be a great example would be for the LCA Navy, and I had drawn them with the left cons up, because I assumed that that's how they would work. But he is obviously the best resource example to say that that's not how the control logic that's not how the computer flies the aircraft. And yeah, so I mean, it's small things like that, but on a larger scale, it's definitely when you constantly grow up in that kind of environment. I mean, he's always watching videos and documentaries, and he's scrolling through YouTube. Almost all of our books in our cupboard are about aircraft and history of air-to-air refueling and these obscure things. And I mean, if we ever go on holiday as well, the first thing we do is we quickly go and find an Air Force museum, and you go and you visit that Air Force museum. So there's nothing you can really pen down and say that this is what influenced these designs and these drawings. But it's definitely I mean, I'm 24. It's over 24 years of constant exposure to airplanes. It's what I mean, eventually, at some point in time, you stop saying, ooh, guns, bombs, and you start looking at the smaller, finer details, and you start looking at why is the air intake positioned where it is? Why is it at what angle it is? Does it have intake cracks? Does it have, I mean, various things. Yeah, it's slightly more than just gawking at aeroplanes.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Final question, Angad, then, because I know it's the pandemic, but I know that you're also busy doing all of this artwork. What's next? What's next on your canvas, on your drawing board? You know, are there other scenes that are standing out to you right now? There's like an operational situation that's on in Ladakh. There are other things elsewhere as well. What's standing out to you? What's next from you?
I was actually looking at going in the exact opposite direction. Is when, because of Ladakh and because of Leh and because of this entire confrontation, the things that are all constantly being flashed on my screen and things that are always constantly coming to the fore are the flashy, sexy Mirage 2000, MiG-29, Su-30, these aeroplanes that you would very obviously associate with the Air Force. And I feel like majority of the Air Force or the Navy or the Army doesn't get the love that they deserve. I mean, you don't see too many pictures of AN-32s flying around, but I'm sure you would know that if that AN-32 did not fly, that Su-30 is not flying the next morning. So that is something I definitely want to work towards. And I mean, if you've been given a platform to try and showcase all the other aircraft and all the other missions that all of these men and women perform, then it's only right that you kind of do them a little bit of justice as well. So that's probably what I'm going to be. I mean, I'm still going to balance it with a little bit of a few MiG-21s and other fighter jets in the middle there as well. But I'm most definitely heading. My aim is to try and draw the non-poster boy aeroplane.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, I said the last question was my last question, but I have one more because the aviation defense community, the subculture in India has been robust and vibrant for a very, very long time. There have been forums, there have been websites, there have been blogs for well over a decade and a half in this country, since the beginnings of the internet, in fact. And so there's a lot of awareness, lots of aficionados, lots of people who are interested as well. What's the response been to the work that you're doing? What kind of response have you
got? It's a little bit hard to judge, to be perfectly honest, because the response has been extremely varied. That most of the people who've really liked my work and have asked for my work have largely been involved with either they are themselves in the Air Force. They used to be in the Air Force. They have a relative who used to fly the type that has been depicted, for example. So it's largely people who are looking to purchase those. However, there are a few exceptions. So, for example, there's one exception, which is a gentleman who wanted to buy these so he can put them up in his son's room. So it inspires his son, and it's something his son wants to do, which, I mean, you can't ask for a better situation. I personally can't ask for a better situation than that. And another exception, surprisingly, has been my depiction of the LCA and the ALH, which I don't want to sound controversial, but it generally has not received the best media coverage, these two platforms. It's generally been negative. So I'm personally extremely surprised by how many people want these depictions of truly out and out Indian aircraft on their walls. And that's great. It definitely means that it's moving in the right direction.
Oh, definitely moving in the right direction. I can tell you that there's a huge resurgence of interest in Indian equipment, and rightfully so, because many of these systems that have faced controversy and criticism in the past have turned the corner in a very admirable way, and they deserve all of our support. And artwork like yours certainly draws a great deal of interest and adds that beautiful touch to some of these things. So why not? Absolutely. Angad, it's been great speaking to you. All the very best for the rest of the pandemic. I hope it doesn't last long. You can get on with getting your civil aviation career off the ground. But I hope you won't stop making this art, because it's fabulous. And to all of our viewers who've watched this video, remember Angad's work is available for you to purchase. I'm putting all the links down in the description. I also had a recent piece that did very well on LifeFist on Angad's father, who's a test pilot on the LCA Navy program. So you can read all about that as well on LifeFist. Thanks, Angad. Great speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.